In the thrilling world of rally racing, Fabrizio Meoni was a name that made the desert stand at attention. They called him the Lion of the Desert, and for good reason. With 13 Dakars, 2 championships, and thousands of miles of African sand conquered on nothing but skills and courage, he was a force to be reckoned with. However, on January 11th, 2005, in the middle of Mauritania, the desert that had given him everything, asked for everything back. Join us as we cover the life of Fabrizio Meoni and try to piece together the last minutes of his life. Fabrizio Meoni was born on December 31st, 1957 in Castiglion Fiorentino, a small hilltop town in the heart of Tuscany. As a boy, Fabrizio was drawn to machines from early on, and the mountaintops above Castiglion Fiorentino, where he would later train for years and years, perfecting his techniques. Growing up, Fabrizio was heavily influenced by father Arturo Barezzi, a local Marist missionary whose passion for helping others left a deep mark on him. That spirit of giving something back, the idea that whatever the world handed you carried an obligation to share it, would stay with Fabrizio for the rest of his life. Then, at the age of 16 in 1974, Fabrizio finally bought his first motorcycle, an Ancillotti 50cc, and immediately started competing in regional enduro events. He kept at it through his teenage years, improving steadily, and by the late 1970s, he was good enough to realize that this had turned out to be more than just a hobby. In 1978, he made a decision that surprised people around him, dropping his engineering studies to devote himself entirely to motorcycles. And that gamble paid off, as that same year he won the Italian Senior Class 125cc Championship and finished second in the Italian 125cc Junior Championship, riding a Fantic motor. Through the 1980s, Fabrizio built his reputation steadily in the Italian enduro scene, and by 1988, he had won the Italian Enduro Championship outright. But it was the following year, 1989, that changed everything. He rented a KTM 350cc machine, put himself on a plane, and traveled to Peru to compete in the Incas Rally, which was a grueling desert event far from anything he had done before. And just the next year, he won the Incas Rally outright, proving himself to the wider world of rally raid as a rider who could navigate, endure, and push hard across thousands of miles of sand and rock without crashing. Over the first half of the 1990s, he continued building his resume, highlighted by a third-place finish at Dakar Rally in 1994. Then in 1997, KTM signed him as a factory rider, recognizing everything he had accomplished as a privateer and finally giving him the support and resources needed to compete at the highest level. And though his initial races ended in disappointment, Fabrizio kept giving it his all. He came back stronger than before and finished second in the 1998 Dakar behind Stefan Peterhansel. Through years and years of hard work and failures, in 2002 he finally claimed his long-awaited Dakar victory, and in 2002 he defended his title, becoming one of the few riders ever to win the legendary race in consecutive years. Away from racing, Fabrizio remained guided by the values of father, who spent decades raising money for missions in South America and running youth projects in the town. When the Dakar started taking him through Africa every January, what he saw there changed him. He crossed thousands of miles of desert each year and passed through villages where children had nothing. Believing the continent had given him so much through his career, he felt a responsibility to give something back. And so in the second half of the 1990s, he partnered with father to build a school in the Guinea Rails districts on the outskirts of Dakar. He never sought recognition for his charity work and simply kept returning to Africa to help. But despite all he achieved, in 2005, his journey would end in a tragedy no one could have foreseen. The 2005 Dakar Rally started in Barcelona on December 31st, 2004, which also happened to be Meoni's 47th birthday. And this detail is significant because, like so many birthdays before, he decided to spend it on his KTM 600 Rally No. 3 machine rather than with his family. Rumor has it that he had announced his retirement after the 2004 Dakar, telling friends and teammates that he was done, that 13 Dakars were enough for any man. Plus, he had promised his family and kids that 2004 was the last year, and that he'd finally spend more time at home. To a point, he meant it. Or he thought he did. But rally racing had been Meoni's entire adult life, and when it came down to it, one more Dakar pulled harder than the promise. More importantly, he had entered this edition with a clear plan, not just for himself, but for his teammates, Ciro Despres and Alfie Cox. The three of them had agreed to finish 1, 2, and 3 on the podium as a tribute to their fallen teammate, Richard Sankt, who had died months earlier while competing in the Pharos Rally. The initial stages of the event were as unforgiving as ever, where sandstorms had ravaged Mauritania for days, tearing through the original route and forcing organizers to cancel and shorten multiple stages. That said, Meoni delivered one of the strongest performances of the event, winning Stage 6, a 306-mile special from Smara to Zurat. He finished the stage in 4 hours and 37 minutes, which was the fastest motorcycle time that day, and by the time the field reached Stage 11 on January 11, 2005, Meoni was sitting second overall behind his 30-year-old Frenchman teammate, Ciro Despres. According to his teammates, the evening before Stage 11, Meoni sat down with them, particularly Jean Brucy, and told them how much he was looking forward to what came after. "I've been completely selfish for 10 years, and when this race is over, I'll finally be able to give myself properly to my family," he said. On the morning of Tuesday, January 11th, the riders prepared for Stage 11, a run from Attar to Kifa across the open desert of Mauritania. Before the race, Meoni checked on his machine, went through his road book, and had something to eat. There was nothing to suggest that the day would go the way that it did. The original route was scheduled to cover 408 miles, but days of severe sandstorms had battered the rally, forcing organizers to shorten the special stage to 248 miles. Although the storms had finally passed, they had completely reshaped the Mauritanian landscape. Massive dunes had shifted, familiar tracks had disappeared beneath the sand, and the desert itself had been transformed by days of relentless wind. At around 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, the race kicked off, where Meoni seemed absolutely flawless. As the racers pressed deeper into the special section toward Kifa, the true nature of Desert Rally Raid came to the forefront. The terrain became highly deceptive. It wasn't a field of massive towering dunes, but rather a fast rolling plain interspersed with low sandy swells. The lead riders realized they had slightly veered off course, losing the precise track dictated by their roadbooks. Despres was the first to successfully realize the correct path and accelerated away, kicking up a blinding roost of dust behind him. Eager to maintain his position and not lose precious minutes in the overall standings, Meoni hooked into the path directly behind Despres. We have to understand that in these conditions, visibility drops to near zero in a split second, hiding the microtopography of the desert floor and transforming even minor undulations into lethal obstacles. Hours later, 5 riders, Ciro Despres, Meoni himself, Estave, Marc Coma, and David Frétigné made it to the first checkpoint, CP1, with Coma setting the provisional fastest time. But just a few minutes after refueling at the 114-mile mark, something went wrong. The stretch of desert where it happened was not a fast section. Fellow riders who pressed through moments later said so clearly, and with a kind of bewilderment that hung over every account they gave afterward, David Frétigné, who was riding close behind and witnessed the crash unfold, said that Despres had taken off in the lead and Meoni followed in his dust. About 300 meters later, Frétigné saw fellow rider Marc Coma with his hand in the air, signaling that something had gone terribly wrong. From here, the facts of the story end, and speculation takes over. David's best guess about what happened, and he admitted it was only a guess, was that Meoni had perhaps been looking down at his road instruments. They had just refueled, so the bikes were pretty heavy, and Meoni maybe lost balance on a small dune or uneven section of sand. Whatever happened in those few seconds, it had to have been a brutal crash. Meoni went down hard on the open sand of the Mauritanian desert, far away from any road, far from any help that could arrive on foot. David immediately activated the emergency distress signal and chose to stay on Meoni's side while waiting for help to arrive. Race organizers dispatched a rescue helicopter as soon as the distress signal reached them, and it arrived on the scene at 10:36 in the morning, 21 minutes after the crash. When the helicopter landed and the medical team reached Meoni, he was stretched out in the sand with severe neck and spine injuries. His heart had already stopped beating. Nonetheless, the doctors immediately began advanced reconstruction efforts, and for 45 minutes they did everything they could in the middle of an empty desert in Mauritania. But sadly, at 11:11 a.m. local time, Meoni suffered a full cardiac arrest and was pronounced dead at the age of 47. His passing sent shockwaves through the Dakar Rally, bringing an abrupt and heartbreaking end to the life of one of the sport's greatest champions. Rally director Etienne Lavigne confirmed the news to waiting reporters. Word traveled down the route and through the Bovac at Kifa. Teammate Alfie Cox, who had finished the stage in 5th place, just a few minutes behind the stage winner, Mark Coma, was reportedly too shocked to speak via satellite phone when journalists attempted to reach out to him. Out of respect for Meoni, the riders chose not to race the following day, and the 12th stage of the rally was cancelled for all motorcycles. Meoni's body was first taken to Attar and then back to Italy on January 13, 2005. Approximately 4,000 people came to the Church of Madonna del Rivaio to pay their respects to one of the finest riders. His wife, Alana, was there, and their children, Piole and Kaira, as well as some of their local politicians and racing friends like Giovanni Sala, who had shared paddocks and bivouacs with him across years of desert racing. The church filled up and kept filling until there was no more room inside, and the people who couldn't get in stood in the streets around and listened to the service through loudspeakers mounted outside. In the months that followed, a foundation was set up in his name, carrying on the humanitarian work he had done quietly in Africa during his lifetime, with projects running in Senegal, Tanzania, the Ivory Coast, South Sudan, Burkina Faso, and Cameroon. It was the most fitting tribute anyone could have devised for a man who used to say that Africa had given him so much that it was only right he gave something back. The desert that gave Fabrizio Meoni everything eventually took everything back. That is the nature of the Dakar, and Fabrizio understood that better than most. What remains is a bronze statue on a Tuscan roadside, a school in Dakar still carrying his name, and a stone marker in the Mauritania sand, where people travel thousands of miles just to stand quietly for a few minutes. His son, Diole, went back to Dakar in 2024 and finished it, carrying his father's name back into the desert that took him. In the end, it's safe to say that the lion of the desert never really left. He just stopped making noise.